Why did we open a game store so close to local competitors? I've opened 3 game stores in California, and on a recent video, we had a comment asking about the risk opening next to other game stores. There are a lot of factors that go into picking a location for a retail business, and what happened at Lake Forest may surprise you. I am going to be breaking this video into 2 halves. Part 1, I'm going to go over relationships. Part 2 is going to be on expansion philosophy. There's going to be some time codes down below if one of those is more interesting to you than the other. This is based on my personal experience opening and running game stores for the last 10 years. This is what's worked for me, and it may or may not work for you depending on your circumstance. I've done this technically 4 times, twice in Fountain Valley, 1 in Oceanside, 1 in Lake Forest. My background before Kingslayer is in sales and retail. Let's dive right into part 1 and look at relationships. My responsibilities in life are to family, staff, and customer, and all of those relationships are incredibly important to me. Providing for my family is a big motivator for me. I have 3 amazing children and an incredible wife who works full-time for Kingslayer. Her name's Yesenia. I have high expectations for myself, and I want my career to provide for my family as best as it possibly can to accomplish our goals. Next up, after family, I have staff. They provide the experience in each store and put kindness and obsession before everything else for our customers. There was a period of time where Kingslayer was a stepping stone job only, where we would hire folks, say, hey, this is good if you are in school, or this is a transitionary role for you on your path. Now that we have a store manager role and higher roles like organized play manager and COO, there are career openings or career positions at Kingslayer that didn't exist 5 years ago when we started. So not only do I have to think of how can I continue to serve my staff and to give them competitive options as we scale, but I really want this to be a career for the folks that are in our leadership team. So I'm always thinking, what's the best decision that allows them to further their career development at Kingslayer? For the folks that have been with us for at least a year, they can see our vision and then that come to life. So for example, at Lake Forest, 12 months ago in April, we signed the lease, walked in an empty building, and I had a conversation with the team and said, imagine what this is going to look like in 12 months. Boom, 12 months ahead, that store is packed. We've got events every single night. It's open 7 days a week. There's 5 staff members there. It's just an amazing experience. So being able to deliver on vision, I'll talk about later. And lastly, we have customers. We have to cater and serve them every single day at our stores. We're open 7 days a week in 3 places, and so we're constantly interfacing with them, and we need to make sure that their experience is as important as possible. So when I'm making decisions, those are my primary focus is what's the best for my family, what's the best for my staff, and what's the best for my customer. After that is another type of relationship which is more of a business relationship with vendors, with store owners, with distributors, or any other partners that don't fall into those first 3 categories. Incredibly important, but the decisions I make with those groups have to serve the first 3. So family, staff, and customer, the decisions I make with our vendors, with our business relationships, have to serve those 3. Let's take a deeper dive into expansion philosophy. When we decide to expand as a retail chain, there's a few things that have to line up. So first, number 1 is I have to make the decision to expand. And in order for that to work, there has to be really good personal timing and economic timing. So what I mean by that, for personal timing, I have to have the bandwidth in my life to take on something like an expansion. I also do basically all of our handyman contractor work. When we do a new store location, I installed the floor at our Lake Forest store and did the painting and the baseboards. So in order to take myself out of Kingslayer on the daily routine and plug myself into a store expansion, we really have to be in a good spot. And for me, mentally, I had to be in a really awesome spot to be able to focus on that as a goal. So that was personal timing. For economic timing, we have to have the cash flow. We have to have the capacity to borrow if we need to take out loans or finance. You have to have good personal timing. You have to have good economic timing. And you have to make the decision that I'm ready to expand and start looking. Then when you start looking, it becomes the where. So I looked at thousands of listings online for the Lake Forest round of expansion, and in person, probably 20 to 30 different sites that I toured and looked at. And then not even in Lake Forest. Actually, I think the El Toro address was probably one of the only locations in Lake Forest itself that we saw. So I looked as far south as San Clemente, as far north as Long Beach or Orange, Brea. When we saw Lake Forest, it was pretty great. It was pretty special. And let's talk about the factors that we look for when we find a retail location. The first one I look for is parking. We have to make sure there's plenty of parking. I don't want lack of parking to be a decision that someone doesn't shop at a store. Fountain Valley doesn't have great parking. Oceanside has an abundance of parking, and so does Lake Forest. Population density in Southern California, that's something we have plenty of. So in South Orange County, in Lake Forest specifically, the population density was massive. And that group of customer for us, a lot of them had shopped at Kingslayer Fountain Valley before, but a lot of them hadn't. And most chose not to drive to Fountain Valley based on how far it is during traffic and whatnot. So that's parking, population density. The next one is price. In Southern California, you're paying at least $2 a square foot for like a shack. And it's very common that in South Orange County, your retail square footage is going to be $4 or $5, sometimes $6 a square foot. Parking, population density, and price are incredibly important. A new indicator for us was foot traffic or organic foot traffic in the retail experience. Our other stores are destination locations where Lake Forest really has foot traffic. So 2 doors down is an ice cream shop. You've got a grocery store, you've got a gym, and all these factors really positively impact our ability to grow as a store. And we're still taking data. The store's been open for about 8 months, so we're still collecting and seeing how to correctly value the square footage cost in relation to acquire new customer acquisition cost. So, and in this industry, there's always that fight that store owners have to make when you're looking at opening a store is like, do I want to be that? Is it okay if we're just the destination hobby shop, the gem that folks want to find? Or do we need to pay for that walk through retail foot traffic? And really the last factor, and I hesitate to even call it a factor, and I don't say that because I don't care or because I don't have the capacity to be like sensitive to other store owners, but other game stores end up meaning less and less because a lot of times we're competing with our own destinations, and if we find a space that serves in the prior half of this video that serves family, customer, and staff, that ends up being more important than how close it is to other game stores. Because if it's in the best interest of family, customer, staff, other game stores, like I'll get into in a moment, end up being also a net positive. Once we saw the Lake Forest site and we saw the price, we saw the parking, we saw the population density and the foot traffic, it was the best site that we've ever had the ability to sign a lease at. Like hands down, not close. We knew signing the Lake Forest lease was going to give Kingslayer an opportunity to grow into new areas, find new customers outside of our footprint that the other stores just couldn't do. Fountain Valley is never going to have 30 people a day walk in that weren't planning on going to a game store that day. Neither will Oceanside. Looking at other stores and talking about what's good for the industry or what's good for the player, one store can't have it all. We support 12 different games, 9 of which or 10 of which are trading card games. We can't have the singles for everyone. So having more game stores in an area ends up being a huge net positive for the consumer. It's also a benefit for other game stores. So one thing that we're at Kingslayer, we take a lot of pride in, and it's really, really important to us, is that we really care about teaching people how to play games and making that on-ramp from I'm not a gamer, I don't play card games, to I play weekly at Kingslayer or at a card shop. We want to make that on-ramp and that transition for learning as smooth and as gentle as possible, so that way we can get you into the game. I know that we're effective at this, and we could always improve. We're not the best. We're really effective at that, and folks that learn to play at Kingslayer play at other stores. They shop at other stores. We sell out of product all the time, and other stores may not sell out as quickly, and so they're going to have more product availability. So I learned early on in my arrogance and stupidity in the very beginning, the first few years of Kingslayer, I thought that we owned Orange County and that everyone shopped at Kingslayer and that no one went to these other stores. And through looking at data and maturing and gaining more knowledge and skill over time, I realized that wasn't the case. People shop very hyper local in this industry, and they often shop at multiple stores, and that's okay. And there's a lot to go around. In Southern California, the TCG market in particular is massive. So there's a lot of ways that people and store owners can win in this area. Whenever we do an expansion, it's important to note, we always extend the olive branch. My phone number goes out, I go in person, and I introduce myself, or at least try to, and I really want to have a strong relationship with those other stores. And it doesn't always work out, and that's okay. And maybe it's not reciprocated, or it doesn't need to be a partnership 99% of the time. The only thing that we end up doing, or we really want to focus on, is that we don't schedule events on the same night. For F&M, for Magic, you can't really change that. That is what it is. But for other events like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Lorcana or One Piece or Star Wars, it's important that we look around and say, okay, our player, our consumer, it's better for them if they can play Star Wars Unlimited 3 times a week instead of us all fighting over the same day. It makes no sense to do that. So we do a really good job, or really try to coordinate with our own stores and with other stores in the area to make sure we're not scheduling on the same day. Now, to get to the risk question, is it risky to open a store next to other game stores? So opening a retail store is incredibly risky, but I don't think that's why. It's not because of proximity to other game stores. And in fact, if I had a choice of opening a game store in a town that had 4 game stores or in a town that had 0, I would pick the town that had 4 every single time. There's already a customer base there, and there's probably a gap you can fill. Like, there's probably something you could do differently, a game that doesn't have the right amount of support, or some pain points that the community is feeling from other stores that you can do better. And then it raises the bar of the customer experience for everyone when you come in and say, hey, I also want to provide an experience for gaming in this location, and I want to teach people how to play the game, and I want to have a successful business that serves family, customer, staff. And it's risky for other reasons, like you have to know to a T what your vision is for that store, what your expectations is in like 6 months and 12 months. You're gonna have to borrow money, and that's okay. But the risk of opening a game store, it gets easier the more that you do. Like, we've gained skill and knowledge over 10 years that helps mitigate that risk, so we have more tools and experience to handle issues that may arise. It is incredibly risky to open game stores, but if you have any questions, want any help with that, if you're thinking about doing that, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to help or set up a call. I do think there is a huge benefit to other game stores being next to each other, because it gives you the capacity to teach more people how to play games. The more people that we teach how to play games every day, they're going to be spending it throughout the hobby, throughout the rest of their lives, and not just in your local store. People move away all the time and email me or send me a DM and say, hey, Travis, hope you're doing really well. Like, great to see the content. I'm over in like Seattle now. I'm over in the Midwest now. I'm over out of country, still playing at my local game store. I asked them, hey, what game store do you play at? I want to look it up. And I kind of collect game stores to see like what stores do better for unique ideas. We're in the business of teaching people how to play games. That's what we do. It's what all game stores do, which leads me into this idea that I discovered over the years. I firmly believe that as a game store, our primary responsibility is to be a steward of the hobby and to protect that space. The game store is a sacred place where people go to kind of step out of their stressful lives and have some fun, and they want to meet new people and have that in-person social interaction. And it's our job to teach people how to play games and then protect that space to make sure it's welcome for everyone, regardless of background. If we're all doing that and creating more spaces for players to go in their week when they want to just kind of step out of their bubble and have a healthy way to experience the world, like, that's amazing. That's amazing. Then that's what I hope that we can do at Kingslayer. And I know game stores do a fantastic job of that. That's pretty much a wrap on relationships and my expansion philosophy. Sharing in the joy of the hobby with each other is why this is so much fun to do, why it's so much fun to manage this company. And I really appreciate everyone's support over the years at Kingslayer, and I really appreciate you watching to the end of the video. We have Discord links below if you have any questions about certain games, want to like ask about deck lists, or you can talk about your local meta to help our locals get better at their games. But yeah, I really appreciate you hanging out, and hopefully this is useful and serves you in some way. I stream twice a week on Twitch. You can come say hi there as well. You can say, hey, I found you on YouTube. It'd be great to get to know you a little bit better. Thanks so much for sticking to the end of the video. I really appreciate your time. Hope you're doing well this week, and we'll see you at the shop.